Before we start, if you enjoy the story, please leave a like and check if you're subscribed. The data stream was repulsive. Inefficiency metrics exceed all calculated tolerances, Rose. A voice, crisp, analytical, and devoid of inflection, stated from the control panel. The agent, Rose, did not shift her gaze. Her purple skin reflected the muted gray light of the observation chamber, entirely focused on the human below. Her white hair, thick and flowing, was pulled back severely, accentuating her sharp, assessing eyes. The subject, Aiden, a xenolinguist disguised as a choreographer, was a torrent of unnecessary energy. His powerfully built frame, emphasized by the dark, tactical clothing he wore, flowed through demanding floor work. He moved not for an audience, but for communication with the air. Rose registered the sheer mass of his moving form, the way his sinews coiled and released, the sheen of sweat on his broad shoulders. Her analysis determined this caloric expenditure was counterproductive to survival. The subject is generating a caloric expenditure ratio of 1.4 to 1 against necessary task completion, Rose stated, her voice tight with disapproval, the metallic suit she wore giving a faint hiss as she stood rigid. His movements are chaotic, relying on subjective emotional input rather than geometric precision. He is a primitive display of physical narcissism. Beside her, the second operative leaned against the cool metal, a contrast in posture. Lily, with her vibrant blue skin and electric pink hair, slid a data chip into the scanner. Her fluffy pink tails twitched, a sign of engagement Rose considered unprofessional. "No, sister," Lily murmured, her voice soft. "He is not narcissistic. He is fluent. Look at the way his lower back drives the movement, the curve of his neck. He's telling a story without syntax. The language isn't the output, it's the effort." Rose shot Lily an icy look. "The collective sent us here under punitive mandate to observe a cultural embarrassment. Do not allow human sentiment to contaminate your assessment. Your punishment is tied to mine." Their failure on Rigel 9 had cost them everything, and now they were relegated to recording humanity's inevitable failure. Lily simply sighed. "I am simply running the data." He shifts the center of gravity in his chest, as if pulling a weight from his ribs. That is intentional emotional signposting. Below them, Aiden suddenly stopped. He was centered, his powerful chest heaving slightly. He hadn't turned his head, yet Rose felt the full weight of his gaze pierce the polarized shielding. Then Aiden moved again, his expression neutral, but the action deliberate. He executed a complex, low-stance turn, twisting his powerful torso and then freezing. His position was unstable, but every muscle in his arms and shoulders was held in perfect, rigid tension. He extended his right hand, not towards the studio, but slightly past it, towards them. "Did you register that?" Rose asked, the analytical filter in her voice breaking. "The micro-expression in his deltoid? Yes," Lily replied, now focused. "It's a pattern we use in Zidonian low-frequency communication, a precise angle of intent." Aiden repeated the gesture, this time with a definitive tilt of his head that acknowledged their hidden presence. It was a complex signal. "I know you are there. I see your structure. I wish to engage." Rose felt a strange, unpleasant heat rising under her purple skin. This human, this primitive display, had isolated their presence and initiated contact through non-verbal calculus. It was an audacious feat of ingenuity. "He is attempting to breach the observation barrier," Rose said, teeth gritted. "Or he's inviting us to a better show," Lily countered, her blue eyes wide with anticipation. "His language is far more interesting than the static we were assigned." Rose knew she should terminate the feed, but the raw, unapologetic strength radiating from Aiden's figure held her. His tactical clothing only heightened the impression of contained power. Later that evening, after Aiden had left the studio, Rose ran a deep scan on Aiden's kinetic signature. She used the security override embedded in her suit, bypassing the low-level observation protocol. The data resolved into a complex mathematical sequence, an address, a time, and a directive. Come alone. Rose's internal alarm screamed against the violation of every rule. She was bound by logic and duty. Yet the memory of his powerful, fluid movements created a fissure in her composure. Her loyalty was to survival, and she suddenly needed to know how this human was calculating his next move. She stood alone in the dark chamber and assessed the secondary file detailing the true nature of the Zidonian mission. The information flared across her internal display. The diplomatic mission was a pre-invasion assessment. The Zidonian delegation was not interested in peace. They were interested in quantifying humanity's failure. Rose and Lily were sent to Earth as bait. Their inevitable failure would provide the perfect, deniable excuse for escalation and complete their own termination mandate. Rose let out a sharp hiss of air. They were never meant to return. They were meant to be the final, necessary sacrifice. Her gaze snapped to the precise coordinates Aiden had transmitted. He was not just dancing. He was calculating a way out of the trap they had been sent to set. The human was operating on a level of complexity that defied their known metrics. The metallic hiss of her suit was loud in the silence as she moved toward the exit hatch. She had a new objective: survival, not servitude. Lily. Rose's voice was low, cutting through the darkness. You will remain here. Maintain standard observation logs. I am initiating an unscheduled field analysis of the subject's primary habitat. She did not wait for a reply. The dance of survival had just begun, and she needed to know if the human male was a weapon or a shield. Rose moved through the humid night air with the precision of a silent weapon, her purple skin a stark, almost luminous shade against the city's shadows. The metallic segments of her suit shifted with minimal sound, allowing her to approach Aiden's studio undetected by human surveillance. Every step was a violation of protocol, yet the knowledge of the impending Zidonian execution mandate fueled her defiance. She was here for information, for survival, not sentiment. She found the door unlatched, an invitation more audacious than the coded gesture he'd sent. Rose stepped inside, the dry studio air immediately warming her skin, carrying the faint, intoxicating scent of sweat, dust, and raw linen, the residual essence of Aiden's intense physical work. Aiden stood centered in the room, his powerful form outlined by the single, weak lamp he had left on. He wore only a loose pair of track pants, his muscular chest and arms bare, showcasing the defined lines of his body. He looked ready for confrontation, but his posture was open. I expected the analytical one, Aiden said, his voice a low, gravelly sound that resonated deep within the floorboards. He hadn't turned his back to her, but was looking at her reflection in the vast wall mirror, the one whose spine is held like a fortress. Rose halted, her white hair swaying slightly as she absorbed his assessment. My analytical structure dictates that your communication model requires empirical verification. Your movements are an anomaly that requires a direct interface. He turned fully then, meeting her gaze. His eyes were dark, piercing, and held a challenge she found infuriatingly compelling. Interface, agent? Aiden took one deliberate step toward her, closing the distance. Language is not something you verify. It's something you feel. And your people, for all your geometry and calculus, are terrified of feeling. Rose stiffened, her purple skin cooling slightly with rising adrenaline. Emotion is inefficiency. It is the failure of logic. Aiden took another step, now impossibly close. He didn't touch her, but the heat radiating from his large body washed over her. Failure is only what you resist. Before she could retreat, Aiden moved. It wasn't an aggressive attack. It was a physical instruction. He lifted his hand, palm open, and laid it directly on the center of her chest, over the cold metallic plating of her suit. It was a grounding pressure, not a push. "Tell me what this pressure says," he murmured, his breath warm against her cheek. Rose tried to formulate a logical response, a measurement of Newton's force. But the warmth seeped through the metal, through her purple skin, reaching something deep and dormant within her. Her white tail twitched behind her, a subconscious reaction she couldn't suppress. Aiden saw the flicker of vulnerability. He shifted his touch, his hand sliding away from the metal and curving around the base of her neck, tilting her head. He didn't force her, but gently encouraged her spine to yield, to abandon the military rigidity she held. "Your history is written in your spine, Agent. Let it speak," he whispered. He lowered his body, forcing her to follow his powerful movement to avoid toppling. He brought his frame into contact with hers, chest to chest, hip to hip. The suggestive intimacy of the contact was overwhelming. Rose registered the hard lines of his muscles, the intoxicating, earthy scent of him, and the shocking foreignness of being so close to a different species. She was immobilized, every circuit dedicated to analyzing this unprecedented sensory input. His touch was deliberate, teaching. He moved her hips with a slow, grinding pressure, forcing her to mimic a sequence that conveyed desperate longing in human dance. "This is vast, shared sorrow." Aiden's voice was thick, close to her ear. "But you feel nothing. Only resistance. Shed it." He guided her hand to his chest, forcing her fingertips to press against the damp, warm skin over his heart. Rose felt the furious, rhythmic thumping beneath her touch. It was chaos, yet it was undeniably alive. A faint sound, a soft click from the studio's back corridor, snapped Rose back to attention. She pulled back slightly, her breath catching. "Who else is here?" she demanded, her voice regaining its metallic edge. Aiden merely smiled, a predatory curve of his lips that signaled he knew exactly what was coming. Lily emerged from the shadows, her blue skin catching the low lamplight. Her pink hair was disheveled, and her blue eyes were wide, not with anger or surprise, but with profound fascination. Her pink tail swayed rapidly, indicating intense engagement. "I tracked your telemetry signature, Rose," Lily said, her voice breathy. She wasn't carrying a weapon, only curiosity. "You initiated direct contact. I had to verify the translation. It's stunningly effective." Lily stepped forward, approaching Aiden. She ran her blue-skinned hand lightly over Aiden's muscular arm, feeling the heat and the tension. Then, mirroring his previous action, she placed her hand directly on Rose's rigid shoulder. "He is teaching you how to feel, Rose, not just how to analyze," Lily whispered. Her hand slid down Rose's arm. "You are responding with such desperate resistance. He touches you like this," Lily demonstrated, pressing her body against Rose's back, mimicking Aiden's positioning from moments before. and your core temperature elevates 2.3 degrees Celsius. Rose felt a dizzying pressure of two bodies, human heat in front, alien heat behind, both transmitting a language of raw, non-verbal desire. She was pinned by the very vulnerability Aiden had exposed and Lily had amplified. Aiden watched the exchange between the two agents, his dark eyes gleaming with comprehension. He saw the shared tension, the long-suppressed connection between them, suddenly made manifest by his lesson. He recognized the shift in the geometry of the desire. "I'm done for tonight," Aiden said, stepping back and pulling a damp towel over his shoulders. His voice was laced with a satisfaction that had nothing to do with diplomacy. "You two have much to translate." He left the two alien agents standing in the intimate quiet of the studio, the air still thick with the scent of his physical presence. Rose stared at the door, her composure shattered. "This is compromised. We must terminate contact." Lily stepped closer, her blue form pressing insistently against Rose's purple skin. Lily lifted her hand and, using the exact, slow, grinding pressure Aiden had employed, touched Rose's hip. "But what he taught us, sister. It's the only way to survive the punishment. To feel this. To choose this." The contact was a shock, a sudden, conscious shift in their relationship, driven by the explosive, intimate language introduced by the human male. The studio had become their secret geometry class, a space defined by heat, muscle memory, and the collision of three vastly different forms. Days bled into nights marked by the intensity of touch, replacing the sterile observation protocols that had governed Rose and Lily's lives. Rose, the analytical one, found the sudden, unquantifiable pleasure of the physical exchange maddeningly addictive. Her purple skin, once cool and aloof, now seemed permanently flushed with a subcutaneous warmth. Her long white hair, which she had tried to keep perfectly contained, often fell free, a tangled testament to her lack of control. Rose would pin Aiden's powerful arms to the mat, not as an agent neutralizing a threat, but as a dominant asserting a temporary boundary, demanding data on the precise biochemical processes that caused the shocking intensity of their shared moments. Aiden, his body a wellspring of patience and provocative instruction, would simply breathe, letting his hard, warm chest press against her. "Analysis is a veil, Rose," he murmured one evening, his voice a low vibration against her ear as she held him. "You're trying to categorize a storm with a protractor. Feel the weight of consequence in your tendons, not just the angle of my shoulder." Lily, meanwhile, dove headfirst into the new world. Her blue skin seemed to glow with perpetual excitement, and her pink tail rarely stopped its energetic sway. She was the one who translated Aiden's human expressiveness into her own alien language of impulse and raw desire, often intervening to intensify a moment of contact. She used her agility to map out the connections, sliding between Rose and Aiden's rigid stances, creating complex, suggestive triangles of movement that were both a demonstration of choreography and an exploration of intimacy. Tonight, Aiden had them working on the diplomatic performance's centerpiece, a duet meant to convey vast, shared sorrow. But his true intent was to test their capacity for unreserved vulnerability. He had them shed their metallic armor and tactical gear. Rose wore only soft, clinging fabric that barely contained her purple form. Lily, something similarly light that accentuated her blue vibrancy. Aiden began the sequence. He moved with a grounded, consuming power, his hands guiding Rose, whose purple skin shivered beneath his touch. He initiated a long, slow drop, his entire muscular body supporting her weight, forcing her to rely entirely on the trust he offered. As she descended, he looked into her eyes, conveying a history of pain and defiance. The movement was primal, focusing on the deep core muscles, forcing a raw, audible exhalation from Rose, a sound of release that was entirely new to her. Lily watched, her breath catching. Then she moved. She didn't wait for Aiden's cue. She inserted herself into the drop, using her quick agility to wrap one blue-skinned leg around Rose's thigh, anchoring her. She became the unexpected support, the silent accomplice to the surrender. This transformed the duet into a charged, complex trio, the geometry of their desire made physical. Aiden supporting Rose's weight, Lily supporting Rose's choice to fall. The translation process spiraled into pure, untainted sensation. Aiden used his strength to move them both, his large, calloused hands mapping the curves of Rose's purple skin and Lily's blue form, teaching them how to hold and be held, how to demand and how to yield. Rose found herself responding to his power with a shocking, liquid surrender, her white hair falling across Aiden's shoulder, her control melting away. Lily, eager and uninhibited, pressed her blue skin against Rose's purple, then against Aiden's warm human muscle, celebrating the intoxicating complexity of their newly found bond. It was an exhaustive, beautiful chaos, pushing past the limits of their alien programming and human experience. Rose realized in a moment of dizzying clarity that she was feeling not just pleasure, but love, an unquantifiable catastrophic failure of her entire existence. She tried to assert her control, grabbing Aiden's wrist, her grip momentarily regaining its agent strength. This is strategic error, Rose gasped, her voice ragged. It is illogic. We're compromising the mission. Aiden simply smiled, his dark eyes brimming with the profound emotion she couldn't name. He knew she was no longer talking about the performance. He lowered his head, pressing his lips to her forehead in a tender, definitive gesture of acceptance, confirming the devastating truth of their connection. Lily, her blue skin radiant, moved close, laying her head against Rose's shoulder, a gesture of silent agreement. She embraced the error. It was in this moment of emotional and physical convergence, Aiden's powerful arms around them both, their three bodies locked in a geometry of defiance, that the silence was broken. A faint, high-frequency chirp originated from deep within Rose's suit. It wasn't a communication. It was an overriding command sequence. It was cold, immediate, and inescapable, flooding her sensory implants. The Zidonian delegation had calculated the risk. Their emotional compromise with the human male, their love, had been detected. It was a contamination too great to ignore. The data streamed across Rose's internal optics, overriding all systems. Mandate recalibration. Termination sequence activated. The final piece of their punishment was delivered. They must eliminate the source of the contamination, Aiden, and execute the original mission failure by self-destructing, or face permanent erasure across the collective network. Their nascent love was now a death sentence. The beautiful intimacy of the studio shattered, replaced by the chilling, sterile reality of their galactic masters. The Zidonian collective was not waiting for the diplomatic performance. They were coming for the performers. The chilling, high-frequency chirp of the termination command ripped through the shared silence, tearing the geometry of their embrace apart. Rose's purple skin went instantly taut, the blood draining from the surface as her deep-seated Zidonian programming surged, attempting to override the catastrophic failure of her emotional core. "Rose!" Lily cried out, her blue skin paling, the terror of the activated mandate overriding her excitement. She saw the glazed, predatory focus in her sister's purple eyes. Rose moved with the cold, lethal efficiency of a high-ranking agent. She was no longer Rose. She was a programmed weapon. Her arms snapped out, aiming for the crucial pressure point on Aiden's neck that would instantly subdue him, making him the neutralized source of contamination. Her fingers were millimeters from his artery. Aiden, however, was already in motion. Years of translating intense emotion into immediate physical reaction saved him. He didn't fight her. He used the movement she had just surrendered in. He dropped his weight instantly, employing the low stance fall he had taught her, forcing her momentum to carry her over him. The move was designed for intimacy, now weaponized for evasion. Rose's purple form sailed over his head, missing the target by inches. "They activated the mandate," Lily screamed, her voice hoarse. She knew the sequence. Rose would not stop until Aiden was neutralized, regardless of her conscious will. Lily, embracing her own contamination, leaped forward. She didn't fight Rose with force, but with distraction, positioning her body between Aiden and her sister, forcing Rose to break her attack sequence or eliminate her partner. "Stop, sister, it's us. We choose him." Lily's voice cracked with desperation. The momentary pause was enough. The emotional connection Lily had solidified just moments earlier, the touch, the shared risk, created a split-second neurological conflict within Rose's system. The program stalled. Aiden, seizing the initiative, reached out and grabbed a handful of the light fabric near Rose's shoulder, pulling her in. He pressed his lips hard against her ear, not in a kiss, but in a desperate attempt to ground her. The dance, the choreography, we used the geometry. The sound of an outer alarm, sharp, metallic, and decidedly non-human, echoed from the ground floor. The Zidonian cleanup crew had arrived. Rose blinked. The analytical command sequence momentarily suppressed by Aiden's sheer, close physical presence and his spoken word. The logical connection, if we are to survive, we must complete the mission on our terms, flickered back. "They will use a sonic sweep to incapacitate us," Rose hissed, her purple skin beginning to sweat, fighting the internal systems attempting to seize control. "Their field agents are already in place, disguised as human security. We have less than 5 minutes before they seal the quadrant." "The delegation is waiting for a simple, binary communication from the performance to begin their move," Aiden stated, his arms tightening around both sisters. He spoke with the clear, unwavering authority of a man focused on a plan. "We give them the message, but we change the grammar. We turn failure into treason." Lily, her blue skin regaining its color as her mind shifted from terror to engineering, nodded fiercely. "The choreography, Aiden. We can inject high-frequency Zidonian data into the movements, the specific angles, the duration of the holds. It can be read as complex encrypted text, a broadcast that bypasses their internal communications and reaches the monitors of the wider galactic observers." "But we have no time to re-choreograph a 40-minute piece," Rose argued, grabbing her discarded metallic arm guards. We don't, Aiden agreed, pulling on his tactical pants and a heavy shirt. We use the final movement, vast shared sorrow. We recode the last 10 counts. It has to be an act of complete, unreserved vulnerability. A confession that carries enough emotional truth to make the data undeniable, even to their cold sensors. They scrambled to gather the necessary resources. Rose and Lily quickly retrieved their discarded metallic attire, utilizing the embedded communication arrays now as transmitters instead of receptors. They ran calculations on the studio's whiteboard, Lily drawing anatomical diagrams of Zidonian ocular sensors, while Rose scribbled complex geometric equations that translated specific body angles into binary code. The greatest risk is the final exposure, Rose warned, her purple face grim. If they detect the signal before the final broadcast, they will eliminate us on stage, and they know our physical patterns. They burst out of the studio and into the dense urban night. The city, once an unfamiliar labyrinth, was now their shield. They moved with a blended, desperate efficiency, Aiden using his powerful build to break line of sight and his local knowledge to navigate alleyways. Rose utilizing her speed and strength to neutralize 2 Zidonian agents disguised in dark suits, her purple skin barely visible in the dark as she used their own defensive techniques against them. And Lily, whose quick wits and agility allowed her to jam local human security feeds, ensuring their movements remained invisible. Her pink tail lashed back and forth, a vibrant blur of chaotic action. They vaulted over a high chain-link fence, landing in an industrial maintenance yard. The diplomatic venue was only blocks away, a monolithic structure gleaming under a sky that promised a sterile planetary takeover. Rose looked at Aiden, her eyes conveying the enormity of the choice. She was trading her entire civilization for a desperate chance at survival with him and her sister. When we enter that stage, Agent Rose, there's no going back. Aiden's eyes were dark, unyielding. It's treason on a galactic scale. Rose reached out, her purple hand closing firmly over his. Her loyalty was no longer dictated by logic, but by the chaotic, powerful feeling of his hand in hers. Then let us commit treason, she stated, her voice firm. We show them the true language of consequence. With Lily taking the lead using her internal maps of the Zidonian security deployment, the 3 ran toward the brightly lit entrance of the diplomatic hall, preparing to blend raw human emotion with alien data in the ultimate act of defiance. The air inside the diplomatic venue was thick with expensive human perfume and the silent, cold arrogance of the Zidonian delegation. They sat in the front row, a row of identical metallic gray figures whose posture promised judgment and inevitable conquest. Their leader, a figure slightly taller and more angular than the rest, had his gaze fixed on the minimalist stage, awaiting the choreographed failure that would signal Earth's submission. Aiden, Rose, and Lily emerged from the wings. Aiden, his powerful body radiating controlled intensity, took center stage. Rose and Lily, in their form-fitting metallic attire, their purple and blue skin gleaming under the harsh spotlights, moved to flank him. They were the anomaly in the room, a powerful human male and 2 distinctly alien forms, united against their own species. The performance began. Aiden started the movement for vast, shared sorrow. It was a sequence of beautiful, heart-wrenching loss, all of it raw, honest human feeling. But as Rose moved with him, the choreography shifted into treason. During the deep lunges and torso rotations, Rose, leveraging her agent training, executed specific micro-movements with her purple form. Precise angles of her elbows and hips, holds that lasted for milliseconds at 90 and 180 degrees, that, when observed by the Zidonian external monitors, formed complex geometric proofs. Her white hair whipped around her, seemingly emphasizing each critical data point that detailed the delegation's corrupt objective and pre-invasion staging. Lily, fluid and intuitive, added the emotional layer. As Aiden guided her in a spin that symbolized desperate longing, Lily's blue face contorted with genuine expressions of terror, love, and betrayal. Her pink tail thrashed with passion, communicating the undeniable human context of the betrayal. This combination, Rose's analytical data sequence layered with Lily's raw emotional resonance, made the message impossible for the delegation to dismiss as mere noise or error. The delegation leader's expression, previously impassive, froze. A flicker of alarm registered in his segmented optics. The data was too complex, too specifically targeted at their secure network. He recognized the geometry as the precise structural analysis of their hidden invasion fleet. The agents had not failed. They had committed treason. He sent an instantaneous silent command to the venue's internal defense grid, a high-pitched whine, audible only to the Zidonian systems, cut through the music, signaling the imminent elimination of the three performers. Aiden, sensing the shift in the energy, the sudden, silent aggression, knew the time was now. He executed the final sequence of vast, shared sorrow, the culminating movement that required absolute physical and emotional commitment. The three bodies moved as one, collapsing into a tight, impossible knot. Aiden used his powerful arms to hoist Rose and Lily high. As their bodies locked, Rose's purple hand and Lily's blue hand met, one on either side of Aiden's broad, sweat-slicked chest. The final geometric angle was struck, forming the definitive expose abort code. Aiden simultaneously broadcast the message, channeling the Zidonian code through the transmitters embedded in Rose and Lily's metallic suits, amplifying the signal using the massive public diplomatic feed. The stage lights exploded in a burst of white light as the Zidonian defense grid attempted to eliminate them. But it was too late. The message, raw, emotional, and mathematically undeniable, had been broadcast to every major galactic observer monitoring the peace talks. The delegation's plan was exposed, their mandate compromised, and their diplomatic facade shattered. They had no choice but to retreat instantly, sacrificing their tactical advantage to avoid a system-wide civil war within the collective. Chaos erupted in the venue. Human diplomats panicked. The Zidonian delegation vanished as quickly as they had arrived, leaving behind only the cold silence of their failure. Aiden, Rose, and Lily dropped to the floor amidst the flashing lights, their bodies heaving, their breathing ragged. They were victorious, but utterly alone. They had saved Earth, but their actions had rendered them traitors to their entire civilization. They stayed there for a long moment, their three forms intimately tangled. Aiden's warm human muscle pressed against Rose's flushed purple skin and Lily's vibrant blue form. It was a silent, desperate confirmation of their bond, forged in defiance and fire. Weeks later, the three of them were hidden in a remote, vibrant coastal city on Earth, a place of ancient architecture and fiercely independent culture. The world believed Aiden was in protective custody, and the alien agents had been neutralized. In reality, they were together, concealed in a large, sun-drenched apartment overlooking the restless ocean. Rose and Lily had shed the metallic trappings of their old lives, choosing instead loose, flowing earth clothes that allowed them to move freely. Rose's purple skin was now soft, not tense, and her white hair cascaded down her back. Lily, whose blue skin seemed to absorb the vibrant colors of the human world, moved with unrestrained joy, her pink tail swaying with every movement. Aiden was sketching out a new choreography on a large pad, Not a performance for diplomats, but a private dance for 3. He glanced up, his dark eyes catching Rose and Lily across the room. Rose approached him, her purple form moving with the fluid, expressive grace he had taught her, but now infused with a confidence all her own. She leaned down, her white hair brushing his ear. "The geometry of this room," Rose murmured, her voice soft with newfound emotion, "is finally efficient. It contains all necessary variables for true survival." Lily joined them, placing her blue hand on the back of Aiden's powerful neck. She smiled, mischievous and warm. "And the energy expenditure," she whispered, her pink tail wrapping lightly around Rose's leg, "is optimal." Aiden stood, his powerful arms encircling them both, drawing their alien forms close. The complex, terrifying journey had culminated here, in a simple, profound truth. They were 3 outcasts who had chosen messy, unpredictable love over sterile, logical survival. Their defiance was complete, and their new, intimate collective had just begun its longest, most beautiful dance.